Katie Nimon has only ever known one thing: her family's 116-year-old bus business, Nimon and Sons. Now, after losing the Ministry of Education's school bus contract for the region to Wairarapa-based company Transit, their future is uncertain.
This story is made possible by the following sponsor.
It's just been a really devastating thing, and it's a tender process is a tender process, and it is competitive, and you can't argue that, but you don't quite expect that it's going to be that disruptive, and so when it happens, it is like the loss of a loved one. You don't expect it, and as much as you might be preparing yourself for it, it takes you by surprise, and you have to come to terms. I mean, that's been who we are for as long as I've been alive. My dad, his dad, his dad before him, it was my great-great-grandfather that started the business. So, that's what our name means. There's a framed piece of art in my office, which is something that I drew on paint. So I drew that while I was, after school coming to work, which is my daycare basically. Sit on an empty computer and make some art and print it out and give it to everybody, and stamping envelopes. I mean, it was my first job. I'd be doing filing, stamping envelopes, answering phones.
For Katie and her family, it is not just a business.
It's really about connecting people and places. In Hawke's Bay, we're really lucky. Our landscape means that there's a lot of that to do. You're not urban like Wellington and Auckland, where people can walk and that connectivity is easy. So we are a part of that, and so we're often referred to as the glue that binds Hawke's Bay. Because there's places to go and there's people to see, and that's how you do it. You do it in a group, and so I think that's really what it is. It's when they're parked up in this lineup, then they're just buses, but it's when they're out on the road, and I'm a bit of a bus nerd, but I've been known to be driving down the road and see 3 or 4 of my buses and well up a little bit and go, oh my gosh, because that's what it means. It's really hard. I don't know how to put it into words.
It is not the first time they've had to adapt after losing their public transport contract in 2008, but 13 years later, and with a lack of international tourists, the climate is very different.
At least 2 or 3 of our drivers have been with us for as long as I've been alive, so that's 30 years. And so they're who I know, they're family, and I think that's what this business is, and that's the challenge. People say, oh, but it doesn't mean you have to end as a business. It doesn't mean that, no, but it means that we won't be the same. We won't be the same size, and we won't be able to keep the same people, because that school run work, that's about sort of 50 to 60 drivers, just in Hawke's Bay, and without them, then you're really just an office with some buses and waiting for something to come along.
Their main focus now is creating a smooth transition process and ensuring their staff have something to fall back on.
We want to have this be as undisruptive as possible. It's hard for us, it's going to be a strange environment, but I'm confident that people will move on pretty quickly. It's just going to be making sure that we have things smooth and the transition's good. That's what's really important, but we've still got time, and that's probably the hardest thing, is that we don't finish up our contract until the end of this year, and it feels very much like, okay, yep, time to pack up and off we go, but that's not what it's like, and so, muster up the courage to keep going, and then at the same time work on that transition for the next operator, because they've got 12 years ahead of them to do great things and become part of our community.